This podcast episode is brought to you by Coors Light. These days, everything is go, go, go. It's nonstop hustle all the time. Work, friends, family, expect you to be on 24/7. Well, sometimes you just need to reach for a Coors Light because it's made to chill. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged. It's as crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. It is literally made to chill. Coors Light is the one I choose when I need to unwind. So when you want to hit reset, reach for the beer that's made to chill. Get Coors Light in the new look delivered straight to your door with Drizzly or Instacart. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Hey everyone, we're pumped to be able to share an exclusive trailer with you after the show. From Blue Wire Studios comes Golden Goal, Stories of Soccer Legends. Each Monday, 2 new episodes will take a look into some of soccer's biggest stars and the moments that define their careers, all narrated by Brandon Kelly, the host of Blue Wire's Always Cheating podcast. From Haaland, Zlatan, Messi, Rapinoe, and many more, each episode will focus on the historical plays and personalities that make the sport great. So stay tuned after the episode and check out Golden Goal, Stories of Soccer Legends, wherever you get your podcasts. The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast.
Grizzlies in the penalty. Booker raising up for the win. Got it! 1.7 left.
Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike. I'm here, as always, with Sam. Sam, how are you doing?
Hey, what's up? I'm good. We're coming at you, I guess, a day earlier this week, right? Because we recorded late last week. It was a weekend release, so it is a day earlier. Not too much has happened in the world of the Suns in the past 6 days. Really. But the players are in the bubble now, so, I think things are starting to heat up. It's starting to feel a little bit real. And in just a few minutes, we'll be bringing on Kevin Ray, obviously the voice of the Suns. So really excited for that. But, he'll help us, I think, sort out some of those logistics as we get closer to that.
Yeah, I think it feels like it's going to happen now.
Yeah, right. And it feels real because now you're starting to see the actual... I haven't seen a ton of pictures of Suns players, but I did see pictures
just their food.
Of
Yeah.
just their food. That was a silly thing that happened yesterday.
Yeah, it's very NBA Twitter.
Very NBA Twitter. But I was going to say, we did see pictures of DeAndre Ayton with his gaming setup and Devin Booker with his gaming setup. Yeah. To this point, those are the only 2 Suns I've seen, the only photographed evidence that Phoenix Suns players are in Orlando.
Yeah.
But
I saw
the rest
Javon
of them are
Carter,
there.
too. I think the actual Suns Twitter account tweeted out a photo of Javon Carter, too. So far, we know that those 3 are there.
We know that they're
sure.
there. We know that, and with regard to the food thing, just quickly, I mean, I didn't pile on yesterday. What we know about that, I believe, is that they're tested as soon as they get into the bubble. And from there, it's a 2-day waiting period to see how many of them may actually have it before they can proceed to practices. So I think they're basically just eating airline food for 2 days, but I'm pretty sure it's going to get better after that. So, I'm not too fussed about that.
My thing with the food, which is, by the way, funny that we're starting the podcast with this.
Right,
but,
like the least consequential thing we could possibly be talking about.
Right. Does anything look good in styrofoam containers? I think that was my whole thing with.
Who is it? Who?
A 5-star meal.
You have to
in a
forgive
styrofoam
me.
Container, and it's not going to look great.
What's the name of the woman who runs the Sun's social media account? She's on Twitter.
Oh,
you'll have to forgive me that I'm forgetting her name at the second.
Allison?
Allison, yes, thank you. She posted a picture with a lovely filter over her food because she traveled with the team. She was in their party of 35. You're allowed up to 35 people. And hers looked pretty good. But that was with a filter. I think you just need to be a photographer. You need to work the angles. It's like it's like Instagram. It's like anything else. Yeah. You work the right angles. You can make find a way to make it look appealing.
You're saying that Joe Ingles probably isn't the best photographer for hotel food.
No, I'm saying Joe Ingles is not the best photographer.
How about we give the people what they want? Let's get straight to our interview with Kevin Ray the voice of the Phoenix Suns, the play-by-play announcer for Fox Sports Arizona. We'll switch over to that. Lots of great information from K-Ray here. I think you're all going to enjoy it. We'll be back right after that. All right, very excited. Joining us once again, Kevin Ray, the play-by-play announcer for the Phoenix Suns. Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, fellas. How about you?
Not so bad, I would say. I feel like I'm finally excited about basketball coming again. Now that there's like news that seems to be filtering out on Twitter, photos of the bubble. I think we all saw pictures of the food that was going around, and it seems like all the NBA players are slowly filtering their way in there. I think it's kind of interesting for you specifically, K-Ray, because we have had the news that the games will be broadcast on Fox Sports Arizona with you announcing. What is the plan for that? How is that going to work?
Yeah, well, it's a plan that is still being developed, but as of right now, and I don't think this is going to change, but yeah, we will be doing each broadcast, but we'll be doing them remotely. So we will not be in Orlando. And we are currently, our boss, Dan Siekman, and his fine staff are currently working on setting up a remote studio for us, myself and Eddie Johnson, to use for these 8 games and hopefully more.
Now, K-Ray, what does that look like? It's fine if you don't know at this point, but, because to me, when I think about that, I'm thinking of maybe you and Eddie sitting together at a table somewhere, maybe 6 feet apart or whatever, with a production truck outside. But, have you selected a location for that? Just, kind of some of the logistics, it seems like it's really difficult to get going there.
Yes, yeah, and better that it's Dan Siekman's job and not mine. He is way above my pay grade. But, and what's added, and even greater kind of twist and obstacle to this is the fact that, as you guys know, the arena is being renovated. So we would typically have our normal TV truck pulled in down to the garage below where we set up for game day, and we would most likely set up in one of the suites or something along those lines. Well, can't do that because the arena is, dust and construction going on every single day. So they are looking at having probably 2, maybe even 3 different remote TV trucks. And as of right now, it looks like we'll probably be set up in the old Stewart Health Building. It used to be the Suns Athletic Club, right there adjacent to the arena, next to the parking garage. And so they'll be working on setting up some sort of a studio for us to use. And adding possibly to the challenge is the fact that Eddie and I may not be able to sit within the social distance parameters. Mm-hmm. So I know when I spoke to Dan last week, they were still working on it. Dan, along with the other 21 directors across the league, have a lot of questions from the NBA. How will it be delivered? What kind of delays we're working with, camera angles. I mean, it's a long list that he has to check a lot of boxes too.
Yeah, that's fascinating to think about how different that's going to be and the challenges that you guys are going to have. I'm sure you've thought a lot about it. One of the things that I was considering when thinking about how this is going to work for you guys is the fact that there's going to be no crowd. Recently, I was researching, I should say, for an episode we did about Devin Booker, and I was watching a lot of highlights, and I've noticed that you do a great job of allowing a moment to sort of hit on the airwaves where if the crowd's going insane, if it's like a home game and Devin Booker hits a huge shot or something, you can let that moment sort of rest with the crowd going insane and come in and out with your commentary. Without a crowd, I mean, there's not a lot of that can be done. Have you thought about the logistics of announcing with no crowd, or do you feel like that puts a little more pressure on you guys to talk more almost?
Yeah, and that's those are all great points, and I appreciate the compliment. It is. I mean, that along with obviously being remote is a challenge that none of us broadcasters that I'm aware of have ever encountered, where you're not only doing a game remotely, but you're doing a game, a professional sporting event without any fans. And to your point, yeah, I mean, that's what makes sports so great, is to have those moments when you get a Booker big three or a Kelly Oubre Jr. slam, and you hear the fans lose their mind. And what's that going to be like? And I've tried to kind of process it a little bit, but because it is something I've never experienced, we're all going to experience it together.
Have you gotten any news either from the league or Fox Sports about? I know there was this idea that was floated about pumping in basically artificial crowd noise. Do you know if something like that is going to happen? Do you have an opinion on if you even would want that to happen?
Yeah, I know it is being discussed at the league level, and with all the directors, trying to be, you want it to be professional. You don't want it to sound, like a sitcom with the audience laugh track. So I do think that they will probably be working on that almost right up until our first game. I think they're trying to find a way to make it sound and feel as natural as possible, if that is possible. But to as of right now, there's been no firm decision on what, how, and where they will do that.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thought too. I've heard that they were even considering using video game crowds, crowd noise that sort of can sound probably as real as they can make it sound. I'm not sure how to feel about that either. It seems like it will be odd to watch basketball without a crowd, but I do find it kind of exciting in a weird way to have a chance to sort of hear the sort of communication that's happening on the floor. I guess that's something that you're sort of used to. It's almost like you're going from right on the floor where you can hear them speak to a distance, kind of like us where we watch when we're watching on TV. Have you considered the sort of challenges of calling it from a different location and how that's going to change what you do?
Oh yeah, and again, for myself, Eddie Johnson, the biggest questions will be what camera angles we'll be receiving,
right?
Who is going to be in charge of delivering those camera angles, and the one part of it that won't be completely new is, I've been to enough practices and scrimmages where there isn't a crowd,
right?
To watch these guys get up and down the floor. So in that regard, I think many of those games will kind of have that intense scrimmage type feel at the Suns practice court or out on the big floor or whatever. But when you're talking about now two different teams with the highest level of competition, that intensity is going to be ramped up, and then to add the layer of, as you noted, doing it remotely from some 2,800 miles away. Again, yes, I've thought about it, but I'm not sure there's a way to fully grasp and feel what it's going to be like until we actually get to experience it.
I'm glad you mentioned scrimmages because, part of the reason the bubble is it's such a long, drawn-out process before late July when the games ultimately come back. It was announced this week that there would be exhibition games for the players, and I think a lot of the focus there, K-Ray, has been letting the players get back into game shape because it's been so long for them. But given what you guys are going through and all of the unknowns, it almost seems like maybe you could use a preseason too. Can you tell us if there have been any internal discussions about finding a way to broadcast those exhibition scrimmages, if those will be kind of brought to the fan base in some form?
Yeah, I know there has been discussion. I don't know that we would be doing all three of the games, but I know that there has been talks about trying to do at least one. I think what we could possibly see, and I'd be very surprised if those would be delivered to the fans. I don't take that as gospel, because who knows? The league may decide, hey, let's make this available. But I think that everybody involved on the broadcast side would love to use those 3 games, whether you do end up doing all 3 or 1 or 2. As kind of a dry run for, because beyond Eddie and I, there's several other people involved who have their own unique set of challenges, including Dan Siekman, Bob Adlock, David Hughes, our incredible crew. As part of the social distancing, Dan, if you guys have ever been in a TV truck, you know how closely those people sit.
Right.
And there are upwards of 7 to 10 people in a TV truck. Well, he's got to take that into consideration now, and so has to work with a skeleton crew. So I do think that we'll do some sort of a dry run. Maybe one of those games is done with just the camera operators, the technical people, so they can get a sense of timing, etc. And then maybe Eddie and I will be able to jump in and do at least one game as well, so we have a sense of the same thing. The delivery of the television feed, what we're seeing, what we're hearing, etc.
That's really fascinating. I definitely appreciate all the hard work you guys are putting into that. I think I can say that I speak for the entire Suns fan base when I say that we're grateful that we get to hear you guys calling these games, especially for the Suns, because I don't think they have any national TV games. So we need you guys to broadcast these games in order to see them. So we definitely appreciate all the work that you're putting into that. And we look forward to it. I think as big of a challenge that it's going to be for you guys, it's going to be really exciting for us to see and hear. Sports are coming back, and so are your chances to bet on your favorite teams and events. And there's no better place to start than our exclusive partners, Bet Online. Get in on the action for this week's big UFC fight, or check out the odds on NASCAR, Formula One, and the Premier League. Can't wait for your team to come back? BetOnline has future odds, including win totals, division winners, and even league championships. Or check out daily simulations of Madden and NBA 2K to watch and wager on. Visit betonline.ag and use the promo code BlueWire to receive your new welcome bonus. That's promo code BlueWire. BetOnline, your online wagering experts. I did want to ask you, recently Sam and I recorded an episode of this podcast because the Suns had just passed 5 years since Devin Booker was drafted. So we tried to do a bit of a retrospective of Devin Booker's career so far, and we were talking about some of the biggest moments that we remember from his 5 years in the Phoenix Suns. Like I said, as I was looking back on a lot of these moments, your voice was the voice that was calling them. You essentially called his best seasons that he's had in the NBA so far. When you look back on the 5 years of Devin Booker on the Suns, are there any big moments that stick out in your mind, being that you were there watching them live?
Yeah, I mean, certainly now Steve Albert called his 70-point game in Boston, but that run that Devin had late last year in March, when he scorched Utah for 59, and I don't remember the other point totals off the top of my head.
50
but
and 48, I think, right?
50 and 48, yeah. But he was just on such a tear, and the thing that I've really loved and enjoyed in watching and being able to broadcast Devin's games, and Eddie I think would echo this, is just the way he goes about getting his shots. It's not all 3-point shots, and I really took offense. And granted, we're the home broadcast crew, so we are probably a little more sensitive to criticism and critiques and stuff. But it was so easy for the outside so-called experts to use the Suns and Devin Booker as punching bags. Talking about his stats being empty stats. He's on a losing team; they're empty stats,
right?
And it just frustrated me at the time, and still does to some degree, because it just shows that these people aren't doing their homework. Devin's not launching 23-point shots, and if you've watched the evolution of this young man's game, I mean, it has been a sight to behold, and you can appreciate the work that he has put in both mentally and physically to make himself a better player. Having been involved in the Suns organization in one capacity or another for 20 plus years, I'm certainly invigorated because of the fact that you look back at the days when you had a chance to be around a Steve Nash, a Grant Hill, a Sean Marion, a Maury Stoudemire, and knowing the kind of buzz and energy and excitement it created for the fan base. And that's what I see with Devin and some of the other team members for this team. I think he has a chance to be an absolute star in this league, and I think finally, because of the respect that Monty came in and brought and the philosophies that he's instilled, I think people are beginning to take a closer look at Devin Booker and realize there's nothing empty about his stats, even in losses. He plays the game the right way, and it's crazy to think he's only 23 and he's only going to get better.
It truly is an unprecedented story. I was saying when we recorded that podcast last week to Mike that there is not another case of development in NBA history of a guy like Devin Booker, 5 coaches in his first 5 seasons, who rose to this level. It's, and so to agree with you, Kerry, I think a lot of that narrative is dissipating now that the Suns are starting to win more games, now that guys like DeAndre Ayton are stepping up a little bit more and helping the entire team play to its full potential, Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre as well. But yeah, it's just been very special, obviously, to watch him grow into the player that he is. Looking ahead to the bubble, though, I think what I've always appreciated about Suns fans, and not just the fan base, but all of you guys in the media as well, and on the broadcasting side, is the relative honesty of everyone involved. And in the bubble, I think we're realistic about expectations. It would be nice to see the Suns make the playoffs, obviously. But it would take a miracle. They basically need to rattle off 7 wins or 8 straight wins in order to have that chance. So as they go into these next 8 games, what are you looking forward to the most about the Suns, and what are you hoping that the players take out of this experience? Yeah.
I think that the biggest thing for me is just the continued growth. I still remain, fingers crossed that maybe we'll get to see Kelly. I certainly think it is, and I know that Shams reported a couple of weeks ago that after some talk about Kelly playing, that he's been ruled out. But I think that it's a positive, no doubt, that Kelly traveled to Orlando with the team. I mean, keep in mind, there was only 35 people allowed in each team's traveling party. So as an organization, whether it's the Suns or anybody, you want to make sure you're taking 35 people, who are going to be able to contribute. And specifically as it relates to the players, you don't want to leave an empty roster spot, if you will. So I still remain hopeful that maybe we'll get to see Kelly. I don't know about all 8 games. I think if you heard James Jones' comments yesterday or the day before, I believe it was, go down, practice, work hard, and get yourself in a position to, maybe help contribute. And again, this is just me. I don't know anything. Nobody's told me anything. But I remain hopeful that maybe we'll get to see Kelly for a few games. And having said all that, and you guys know, we've talked about it before, the fact that this team was only healthy, had a full roster 3 games. And if they can somehow, at the very least, even if Kelly doesn't play, keep everybody else healthy, I just want to see that continued growth. Looking at Cam, looking at Ty, the young players, and some of the other guys who had the bumps and bruises. Ricky Rubio, I think, we saw Ricky, who was really energized after a much-needed All-Star break. And I think about what he's going to bring to the floor with this much time off. So I want to see the continued growth. And as I send a message to the team, leave a message, leave your calling card, let them know what is brewing in Phoenix. And I think if they can come out of there with that it's going to create a whole different buzz for Suns fans moving forward.
Yeah, Ricky Rubio became a father in the middle of the season, and then it just kind of never stopped. It's actually kind of interesting with Ricky Rubio. The Suns signed him. He's one of the older players on the team. I think he's the second oldest on the team. It was expected that his year would never end because there was supposed to be the entire season, then there was supposed to be the Olympics, and then we're going to go right back into the next season with training camp and then the 2020-2021 season. Turns out he's had this really long break where he's able to sort of rest and spend time with his son, and I think, as hard as that is for the world at large, I think it'll be good for Ricky Rubio and extending his career and maximizing his time with the Phoenix Suns. So I think that's a great point to bring up there. This is your second time on our podcast, and the first time you were on, I took some heat online for forgetting to ask you about a famous game that you called for the first few minutes of the game. Because you lost your voice. This was something that happened. This is something that happened. I guess it was it last season? The 18.
It was last season.
It's funny because there weren't a ton of memorable moments from this season. I mean, let's be honest, it was a 19-win season. But this distinctly, I remember, it was a game against the Charlotte Hornets, and Tom Leander subbed out for you at halftime.
Yeah, and
it wasn't even halftime.
No, it was the first commercial break, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Can you tell us what was that like? Tell the story of that night.
Yeah. Well, it was obviously in the middle of Cowboy season and Sun season, and as you guys know, the travel can be a little frenetic when I'm doing both, and it was just an instance where I had done a Cowboys game the night before. I believe it was a Sunday night game that we had, if I'm not mistaken. I don't recall right off the top of my head, but so did the Cowboys game, and I could feel my voice towards the end of the Cowboys broadcast starting to get a little weak. But I thought, okay, I've got 24 hours until the Suns game, and so stayed in Dallas that night. Flew back. Well, I knew that morning that it wasn't quite right, so I just basically shut my voice down. I sent my doctor, Dr. Tom Field, a text message, alerted him of what was going on, and we tried to take some steps and measures. I texted Bob Adlock and Dan Siekman to let them know my voice was not 100%. I'm going to rest it. Going to try to give it a go. And really didn't talk all afternoon. Got to the arena, and we typically kind of have our little pre-production meeting there in the media room, and I still really hadn't said a whole lot. And then I think it was Bob Adlock asked me a question, and I said something, and his eyes kind of looked like saucers, and I'm like, it's okay. We're going to get through this. I was reassuring myself more than I was reassuring him, really. And then I'm trying to think. One of the kind ladies there at the arena in the media room, she went and grabbed me. Well, I got some tea, some honey, some lemon, and she grabbed me something else. And at this point, I've been trying to use I had zinc lozenges. I tried to. I took a small steroid, which is known to take the swelling down, in those type of situations. And I've used that a couple of different times when the throat gets tired, and have had success with it. But it was just too far along, and so we got on the air, tried to give it a shot. And of course, the first time Eddie Johnson heard me talk, Eddie's response was classic as well. And Dan Siekman doing exactly what he should do, because he has to look out for the entire broadcast, and he doesn't want a frog speaking for 4 quarters on Fox Sports Arizona. So yeah, it was classic. We got to that commercial break, and all of a sudden I feel a tap on my shoulder, and Leander goes, You're out, pal.
I remember even Eddie was calling some plays for a few plays.
Yes, yeah. He went into play-by-play mode. So, yeah, that's one I won't forget any too soon.
Yeah, I think it was memorable for everyone watching as well because some people were like, "Is my audio okay on my TV?"
Yeah, there are a lot of people checking their audio settings on their TV.
And I thought it was kind of cool that you tried, because it's just so memorable and so difficult, and it was funny that just Tom sort of just checked in. I'm sure he was already tapped and said, "Hey, just in case."
Yeah, we had alerted him. Just said, in the event of, and I was really, as a broadcaster, you're a competitor in your own kind of way,
right.
And I hate missing games. That's why I do everything I can when the Cowboys and Suns are overlapping. To whether it's a red eye, first flight out 5 a.m. in the morning, I don't want to miss a game. Just one of those things where the body says we're gonna shut it down for tonight.
Well, you gave it a shot. Signs of a true professional, and as an audience, that's basically all we can ask of you. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, before I let you go, Sam, do you have any other questions?
I got one
K-Ray?
more question. I just need to get your take on one thing, K-Ray, because I feel like everyone in the NBA circle has to have a take about this. Presumably, regardless of what happens with the Suns in the first 8 games, you being a basketball fan will continue to watch. Do you think that this NBA title ultimately will deserve an asterisk? Or do you think this is the sort of situation where a lot of people are finding things to complain about, but 5 or 10 years down the line, no one will really remember anymore?
Yeah, look, I don't think it deserves an asterisk. I mean, no, we will not have played 82 games, but it's not as though we're going to miss, 20 games short. In my opinion, I think this year's champion will be even more deserving, and I say that because of the obstacles and the challenges that each one of these teams have to go through. Right. And, you oftentimes hear coaches and players talk about the sacrifices that they have to make, in order to become a champion. And it's, whether it's eating, staying in shape, your condition, your mental approach to the game. Well, you have all of that in addition to working and playing under these conditions in this climate. I mean, none of these guys have experienced anything like this. And to me, this will be the greatest mental challenge that any of these players will, at least up to this point, will have faced. And I think the team that holds the gold trophy at the end of it is extremely deserving of that championship, because you will have had to have endured things that no other champion has had to. So, no, I don't think there should be an asterisk by it at all. In many ways, I think it's maybe one of the greatest championships won.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a really great point. I think a mental challenge is going to be really difficult. And I think even Adam Silver said one of the focuses for the NBA is the mental health for the players that are going to be there. And I think that's really smart. You're separating them from their families, and they're going to be there for months at a time for a lot of these players. And that's a good focus to have. I think for a lot of people, it's just nice to have sports, sports that we watch. For me, I don't watch NASCAR. I don't watch the WWE. So it's like I have had no sports to watch at all for these last few months. So we're definitely looking forward to it. Everyone listening, of course, definitely watch the Fox Sports Arizona broadcast of the Suns game. Thank you so much, Kevin Ray, for joining us. We're looking forward to hearing you calling Suns games again.
My pleasure, fellas. Always good to catch up with you. And yes, can't wait till July 31st gets here.
All right. Thanks once again to Kevin Ray. What a great guest. So easy to talk to, such a pro, and gave us a lot of interesting information there, right?
He's the best. He gives, first of all, the fact that he's even willing to come onto our podcast when, we're basically these nobodies multiple times. He's always been so outgoingly great to us. The other thing is also, K-Ray, you can tell he's a guy who cares about the crew that he works with, and he always makes a special consideration to call out
shout them out.
The other hardworking members. I think it was really interesting when he talked about the production trucks. People don't realize that those guys are kind of crammed in there and not necessarily usually within social distancing guidelines. It's an entirely new world for that industry. So I just love that he's giving some attention to all the people who work behind the scenes in that industry as well. Obviously, we love him. We love Eddie Johnson and the rest of the crew. But yeah.
Yeah, I think he did a good job, and I think it also highlighted the uncertainty of the entire process. I think he did well explaining that because, as difficult it is for the players and everyone in the bubble, there's a whole another subset of people who are putting a puzzle together outside of that, and I think he did a great job explaining that. And I'm glad we finally got the story about the day that he lost his voice there. Mm-hmm. So big shout out to K-Ray for joining us. There was a little bit of news that was sort of Suns related, I think I want to talk about, and then we'll get into some questions from people from Twitter real quick. Basically, Jamal Crawford, I think, is the only thing that's sort of Suns relevant. Jamal Crawford was signed to the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets roster has been sort of decimated by COVID results. A significant subset of players and some of their best players have tested positive for COVID, and that has resulted in them having a massive hole in their roster. So they've signed some players, including 2 former Suns players, Tyler Johnson and
3
Jamal Crawford. Kind of interesting. 3. Who's the third?
Michael Beasley.
Michael Beasley as well.
Yeah.
So Jamal Crawford gets one last chance, I think, to show off on that stage and do his thing. Maybe we'll get another 50-point game.
You know what's crazy is this is kind of irrelevant, but just to highlight Jamal Crawford's age, I was talking with my roommate about Gilbert Arenas today, and we were talking about his prime back in 2005, 2007. That's when I was first getting into the NBA. Those were the Steve Nash years. But Gilbert Arenas, obviously at the time in the East, they had that whole team with the Wizards. He was scoring close to 30 points per game. He was in his prime before the whole Deshaun Stevenson incident. And so my roommate was asking me, how old is Gilbert Arenas even? And I was like, him? He's been out of the league for 10 years. He's got to be in his early 40s, right? Like close to 45.
Right.
And I looked it up. Gilbert Arenas, a guy that we remember for this, fantastic scoring a long time ago. He's 38 years old. Yeah. Jamal Crawford's 40 years old. He stopped
playing at 33.
He stopped playing at 33, but I think he stopped playing at 31 even.
That's so crazy.
And he's 38 years old today. Jamal Crawford is 40 years old, and as of today, he's on an NBA roster. So, credit to him.
And he's going to shoot a lot on that team,
because he's going to have plenty of touches on that team. To have those opportunities and to take care of his body the way he does at his age is not something you see in the NBA very often. He is a consummate professional. Everyone seems to love him around the league. So truthfully, I mean it when I say I will give Jamal Crawford credit for his ability to stick around. He's a very resilient pro. All that being said, I don't think he's going to do much for the Nets. I thought it was funny. I'm not calling these guys out in a negative way. If anything, I think it's a positive thing. The Blue Wire Nets podcast on our network did a 20-minute little emergency episode last night when Jamal Crawford signed with the team, which I thought was funny. It would be like if we did an emergency episode last week for Cameron Payne. I think people see the highlights of the 51-point game and they see highlights of crossovers from now 7 years ago, and they sort of associate him with that style of play. But obviously, being Suns fans, having watched him for the past year, we know that he did not have really an impact on winning basketball.
Yeah, my whole thought process looking at the reaction online was everybody was excited except for Suns fans who were not necessarily not excited. It's just they understand better that he's not really going to impact the Nets in a positive way, I think. Yeah. But that doesn't matter. That's not the point of signing Jamal Crawford at this point.
It's 8 games, and that's not the point. But it's not just
he's a legend, and it's nice to see him on a basketball court. Like the Nets are going to lose anyway. Like there's probably going to be a really bad stretch of basketball by the Nets.
I would almost say
entertaining.
I would almost say that the Wizards, if the Wizards were at full strength, they would have a chance now in the East to actually prove that they were deserving of coming in the first place. But of course, Bertans is out and Beal is out, so they don't have a chance. And it's like, well, why invite them in the first place? But I guess you could say the same about us, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, and we have,
yeah,
we have. So Before we started recording here, I did tweet out something just asking people if they had any specific things that they wanted us to cover. So let's get to a little bit of that. I think we're going to do, the plan right now is to do an official actual mailbag next week, maybe with a guest. So
perhaps
for those of you who didn't get some questions in because I only gave you 20 minutes this morning, you'll have some time. If you have some specific things for us to talk about next week, you'll have some time to get that over to us. Couple of interesting ones. First one was from the Baines fan club, the Suns'
He's
official
always got a quick
Aaron
trigger.
Baines fan club.
He's always got a quick trigger.
Yeah. He said, I'm still waiting to hear a discussion about who would win in a fight between one Baines-sized duck and 10 duck-sized Baines.
You can tell he's a Redditor, too, because that's such a niche joke from like 10 years ago.
Right.
Spammed in every AMA on Reddit for the past 10 years.
The idea of one Baines-sized duck is terrifying.
It is terrifying.
But it's still a duck.
I know
I actually struggled thinking about this.
You watched the Avatar series recently.
I did.
And Korra. Well, every animal in that universe is a hybrid.
That's true.
So that's kind of what I first thought about. I thought of like the turtle ducks in that series, but then like like a Baines duck, like just 40 feet tall or something.
With a big beard, yeah. I don't know who would win. I kind of would favor like a gigantic duck. I feel like it could just step on a bunch of Baineses, but you know the Baineses have the human brain, so that's always good. And there's a lot of them. 10 duck-sized Baines. That's a lot of them. So I think I'd still favor the giant duck, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think the Baines-sized duck would win.
Yeah.
The other variation of this question is how many duck-sized Baines could you take out personally if they were coming at you in waves of like 3 at a time before you die of fatigue and you don't have a weapon?
You know, if there's 3 at a time, I feel like I could probably get up to like 50. If I don't have a weapon,
I've seen
really
a variation
punting.
of this question where it's like, how many kindergartners could you
take
out?
Toddlers.
I don't want
This podcast has gone off the rails.
I want to get in there. Oh my God.
All right.
Moving on.
Yes. I think someone did ask, the definitely not Ryan McDonough account asked about off-season acquisitions. I guarantee that's going to be a massive topic for us going forward. I think that's going to be weeks and weeks and weeks of that. So don't worry, you'll get that. Someone said Jamal Crawford's future Finals MVP award with the Nets. I will say this. Look, that's funny because obviously it's not going to happen. But I mean, how could you not root for that team though? Now, right? I feel like just watching them, if they are successful in any way, it will be fun because it's just it's like the replacements.
I mean, yeah,
that
man,
movie, you know, about people just replacing players that weren't playing. And you know, I'll root for them.
Sure, it's a meme team, and you know, because it's Brooklyn, I would say they don't get quite the same coverage as the Lakers, but it does remind me of the Lakers when the Lakers first signed JaVale McGee and have, Alex Caruso and these kind of wacky role players that Bleacher Report loves to prop up. The Nets are going to be the same way now. And J.R. Smith, obviously the Lakers just got him. So
Right. Yeah, so I'll root for them. One playoff win I think would just be exciting for them. Give them a chance. Maybe Jamal Crawford goes off for like 40 or 50 even. We saw him do it before.
I do think it's funny because I kind of repressed that memory from my mind, and then I went back and watched the 51-point game highlights recently because I was like, this popped up on my Twitter feed. Why not? I am a Suns fan. And usually I don't play this card being a Suns fan because I don't want Devin Booker to look bad. But I was looking down at the score and and kind of just noticed that like we were consistently down 40 points that entire game. You know, like it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah. Well, and it was clearly this might be his last game. Give him the ball, let him do whatever he wants.
Right.
And
he's still fluid. You know, that's what I'm talking about when I say he keeps his body in fantastic shape. Like the way he moves is really impressive, not defensively, but with that ball he can really do stuff.
Yep. Somebody said Frank off the dribble, which is, I assume, a Frank Kaminsky thought here. I'll say this: I'm not excited to watch him dribble necessarily, but I think it will be nice to see Frank Kaminsky again. It's been a long time since we've seen him play basketball. I don't think he played a single game in 2020.
Nope.
This will probably be the last stretch of games we'll see him play on the Phoenix Suns, most likely.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be nice.
Here's what I'll say.
Offensively, he did well for the team. We've talked about it.
No, he really did. I mean, truthfully, Mike, I don't think we've mentioned it much, but there are advanced stats you could point to that are under the impression. I shouldn't even say under the impression. They're just stats that believe that Frank Kaminsky was a top 5 player for the Suns this year. Those are out there. You could find them if you're a Kaminsky truther, so to speak. And so I don't want to get too much in this episode, if we don't have too much time left, into the offseason acquisition stuff. But I think if you polled most Suns fans, most people would be on board, the vast majority, with bringing Aaron Baines back as the priority. If you look at kind of those backup forwards that we have right now. But then you get into that tier of Frank Kaminsky as a team option, Dario Saric, you could offer him a qualifying offer, maybe if there's no other interest, if no other teams are willing to bite on a long-term contract. Sheck Diallo, I think, as a team option. I have to double-check that. But, I think the reactions there of those three are going to be much more mixed. And I think it's likely the Suns are going to keep at least one of those guys. I don't see why they would ditch all three.
I could see it being Frank, too.
And I could see it being Frank. So, I don't necessarily think we've seen the last of Frank Kaminsky, and I'm pretty excited to see him play, too. I don't know how the minutes distribution is going to work between him and Dario. I think that's something Monty has to figure out. It depends on... You just heard...
And interesting, too, because of the looming free agency.
There's the looming free agency for both of them. And you just heard K-Ray say that, hey, maybe Kelly does play. We just still don't have a firm answer on that, it seems, regardless of Shams' report a couple of weeks ago. So, whether or not Kelly plays at the 4, that's going to impact those two guys and their ability to play heavily. So we'll just have to wait and see.
That's right. Someone said they're rustled that the NBA put at least 5 of the 8 Suns games during working hours, which is odd.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. And actually, I'm surprised. I forgot, unfortunately, to bring that up. But it does suck, doesn't it? I don't know how many courts. Do we know how many courts Disney World has?
It looked like 3, but I think it's only one game at a time is what I've seen. I think it's the idea of multiple courts is so that they could be setting up, because it looks like they had the actual floors for the home teams there. So it looks like they're going to be setting up the floors on multiple courts while games are going on, but I don't think multiple games will be happening at the same time. But that does suck, and I think it all stems from the idea that the Suns are not playing any national TV games, so they need those primetime hours for the teams that are playing the national TV games.
The primetime hours are for Lakers, Clippers, and stuff like that. Yeah,
it sucks, but we're getting basketball at least, it seems like, and we'll do our best to watch them. I'm going to watch all of them. I may not watch all of them live. I'll do my best to try to do that. I'm not sure if it matters.
Look, at the hours that they're at, there's a good amount of people who just won't be able to watch them live.
Right.
And so hopefully, those people will need to find replays. If you've got League Pass, then you can watch it on replay. But for a lot of other people, it sucks. You have to DVR or something.
Yep, that's right.
There are also other means online to get replays.
Yeah, I've still struggled with that.
If
you have a reliable way, somebody send me that link.
I'm not necessarily recommending any method. I'm just saying that there are ways, and if you know, you know. If you know, you know.
That's right. I think we're good for now. I think that's all we're going to cover here. If we didn't get to your question, I'm sorry. We may not have seen it, or maybe it came in a little after we recorded. Like I said, next week, hopefully, we'll get another mailbag a full mailbag episode. I think possibly with a guest. So
next week will be a hybrid, I think, of just... I think the news is going to start to ramp up. These exhibition games are going to start coming up. That's not the upcoming week, but it's a couple weeks from now, and we'll start getting little trinkets of news coming out of the bubble. So we can react to that in addition to doing a more fully fledged mailbag. It'll be good.
That's right. Shout out again to Kevin Ray for making this episode great. We'll be back next week.
This is Brandon Kelly, the host of Blue Wire's new podcast, Golden Goal.
Messi takes everybody on. Messi has got it!
From Lionel Messi to Marta to Pele, our show takes a deep dive into soccer superstars.
2-0 and is. What a World Cup for Megan Rapinoe.
From Zlatan Ibrahimovic's brash confidence with the play to back it up, to Megan Rapinoe's heroic outspokenness and World Cup flair. Each episode examines a personality of the world's game. We'll dig into Maradona's Hand of God performance and subsequent downfall, the teenage trio at Dortmund that signaled the next generation of superstars, and that infamous headbutt that slung Zinedine Zidane from glory. Golden Goal, soccer stars and the moments that made them. Premiering this summer on Blue Wire.
Breaking up is hard to do, but when it comes to your wireless carrier, you should have left a while ago. You're over the big three carriers. You deserve better. Xfinity Mobile. Now you can get unlimited with 5G included for just $30 a month on the nation's fastest, most reliable network. So break free from the big three and save with Xfinity Mobile.
Take the savings challenge at xfinitymobile.com/mysavings to see how much you can save when you get Xfinity Mobile and internet together. Reduced speeds at 20 gigabytes per line. Most reliable based on Root Metrics US report. Results vary, not an endorsement.